Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, one and all. Hope you're doing better than my voice is sounding. Dan Lucero with you for the next 3 hours here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you are listening today, thank you so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. We're going to grit and grind through it today. If you were listening to high school basketball last night, you probably heard my voice go between games. Honestly, it was game one, it was fine. Game two, it was not fine. Fighting through it. I know a lot of people in the area dealing with a little bit of the crud, and unfortunately, I am not immune. So if I sound compromised, do not adjust your dial. Do not go into the audio settings in your YouTube. This is just what I sound like today. We're going to make it through together as best we can here these next 3 hours. We have plenty to discuss over the course of the program today. We're going to talk some more Super Bowl, looking ahead to Sunday's Super Bowl 60 between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. Like I did last year, we're going to talk about the 4 possible outcomes, the 4 versions of Super Bowl 60. I started doing this last year. It's kind of a fun exercise because you can dive into some of the stats, both the raw numbers and the advanced numbers, to find where teams might be able to take a significant advantage, because with any game, there's 4 possible outcomes. Team A wins big, Team A wins close, Team B wins close, Team B wins big. We did this last year, and it was the Eagles winning big last year in Super Bowl 59, obviously, and unfortunately. But when we did this segment last year, the version of events that we thought would lead to a blowout loss for the Chiefs was basically they couldn't block the Eagles. And that's what ended up happening. So we'll see if we can't identify what a blowout win for both teams would look like and what a narrow win for both teams would look like. Again, Seattle's been sitting at about a 4.5-point favorite just about since the line came out. I saw earlier this week, most of the Vegas action has been on Seattle, but they haven't moved, the odds makers haven't moved the line. So you haven't seen a lot of fluctuation in that betting line. So we'll talk about that. We'll do the 4 versions of Super Bowl 60, and maybe by the end you'll have learned a little something new about the Patriots and the Seahawks, statistically speaking, that will maybe make you sound smart at your Super Bowl party. That's really what we're trying to do here. We're going to talk some Royals today. We got some baseball talk to get to. 2 really interesting articles published today about the Royals. I am grateful to Mike Petrello of MLB.com and Michael Bowman of Fangraphs for publishing articles about the Royals today. Bowman's article at Fangraphs is about Jac Caglianone. It is becoming increasingly clear as the offseason is just about over that the impact bat the Royals hope that they are adding to their lineup for 2026 is, in fact, Jac Caglianone. He was anything but an impact bat as a rookie. A lot of it was down to bad luck, but it wasn't all bad luck. Can Jac Caglianone fix a tendency that torpedoed his rookie season? And how will the new dimensions at Kauffman Stadium help? We'll get into that. We'll talk some Cags. We'll talk about also an interesting discovery that Mike Petrello made in his MLB.com column, the hitters who will benefit the most from the new dimensions and the pitchers who would be hurt the most. And most of those pitchers have something in common for the 2026 Royals. So we will get into that a little bit later on in the program today. We're going to talk some K-State basketball. They have a bye this week, the midweek. They do not have a game between Sunday's loss to Iowa State and their upcoming game Saturday at home against TCU. Or check that. That's on the road. That's in Fort Worth. My mistake. And that gives me a chance to really look at the midway point of this desultory Kansas State season The four things that Kansas State basketball has done poorly that have gotten them into the shape that they're in. And maybe, just maybe, some ideas on how to fix them. Whether it's Jerome Tang having to fix them because they can't come up with the buyout money, or whether it's the next coach, whoever that is. How Kansas State digs their way out of, well, like I said on Monday's show, yeah, I know it feels like rock bottom watching them lose by 34 at home to Iowa State, but they might not be at rock bottom yet. This might get worse before it gets better. But how does it get better? We'll float some ideas. We've got two guests today, kind of, on the program. At the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, it's our Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors with Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. We'll get Fitz's perspective on what has gone wrong with K-State hoops. Also get his thoughts on other Wildcat athletic happenings. Tim Fitzgerald will join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. In the 5 o'clock hour today, we're going to hear from Zach Watkins, head coach of the Washburn football team. It is National Signing Day today, not the early signing period. Typically, it's the Division I schools that get their business done at the early signing period. But today is what used to be more widely National Signing Day. And that now is a much bigger day for non-revenue sports at the big schools and all sports at the Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO levels. National Signing Day means Washburn introduced its signing class for next season for high school football. There's a local presence, a distinct local presence on the list of signees today. Shawnee Heights, Aiden Scott, Hayden's Cade Mitchell, Washburn Rural's Jordy Heim, Topeka West's Logan Hunninghake, and others. Brendan Dworzinski, our voice of the Ichabods, you'll hear from him. He talked to Zach Watkins earlier today. We're going to rack that interview for you in the 5 o'clock hour. So you'll be able to hear from the head coach of the Ichabods about the signing class of 2026. So we've got those guests. We got a lot of sports to get to. We got our headlines at 5. We've got our What is Wrong with You in the 4 o'clock hour. And we've got your interaction on the program today. Would love to hear from you. Text line is open. 785-272-9429 is the number. 785-272-9429. You can also interact if you are watching the program on our YouTube stream today. The channel name is 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the channel today. If you have not already, slam that subscribe button. And if you are watching us live on YouTube, as we stream live every day that we're on the air, on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, if you're accustomed to listening on the radio, to listening on the internet, 580WIBW.com, why not check out the YouTube stream? We're not that hard to look at, generally speaking. Myself, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis, the usual crew. It's just me today. Spencer will be along in a bit. Brendan's off. He's got the Washburn Coaches Show tonight out at Skinny Sports Bar and Grill from 6 to 7, talking to Brett Ballard and Laura Wessling on our sister station, home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. So if you want to go see Brendan in the flesh in the greater Topeka area, head up Skinny's tonight. But if you are watching live on the YouTube stream, there is a live chat while we are on the air, while we are broadcasting, and you can hop in there, say hello, interact with your fellow listeners, interact with your hosts on the program. See Vance in, Mark, Christopher, helpfully with the camels, the camel emojis. I always need those on a Wednesday. Sometimes I need them to remind me that it's a Wednesday. You lose track of the days sometimes when you're parenting a 20-month-old, close to 20-month-old. So appreciate you guys checking in and hoping that more of you will join the fray in the live chat today over on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. And for those who are watching the YouTube stream today and may be wondering, yes, this is day 2 in a row, going back into the wardrobe, finding my old Seahawks jerseys, because the Seahawks are in the Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I think that's pretty neat. This is for real ball knowers, ball rememberers. Y'all remember Lofa Tatupu, middle linebacker for the Seahawks, for the Super Bowl team in 2005? Pro Bowls in his first 3 seasons. Little guy, played great. He was one of my favorite players. I loved Lofa Tatupu. And that's what this jersey is today. Number 51 for the Seahawks back in the 2000s. Had a very short career. Injuries cut his career short. But, man, when he was playing, he was one of the best. So, In case the viewer was curious today, now you know. Speaking of that Super Bowl between the Seahawks and the Patriots, 4 ways any game can go, right? When you really break it down. Big win for Team A, big win for Team B, close win for Team A, close win for Team B. 4 outcomes. What do those outcomes look like for Super Bowl 60? We'll start with the close games because Vegas thinks this will be a close game. Line opened at 4.5, and it's pretty much sat there just about the entire time. There might have been some early fluctuation to down to 3.5, but it sat at 4.5 for the better part of the last week and a half. It remains 4.5. In fact, up at Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta, if you want to run up there and get some action on the game. So that says that the most likely outcome per Vegas is a close win, a 1-score win for the Seattle Seahawks. So what does that look like? I think when you look at the advantages that Seattle has, a lot of the preview writing, a lot of the podcasts that I've been listening to, because you Chiefs fans know the drill, right? When your team plays in the Super Bowl, you listen to everything. You watch everything. You consume everything about the game. What a lot of people keep coming back to when they look at this game is the Seahawks have a better roster 1 through 53. They have more good players than the Patriots do. And that's not to say the Patriots do not have good players. They arguably have a better quarterback in this game, for instance. That's a big help. But man for man down the line, the Seahawks have been a better football team than the Patriots because they have more good players than the Patriots. And that has been the case from week 1 all the way through. While the Patriots have certainly played better as the season has gone on, and their last 5 games have been stellar performances as they blew out their last 2 regular season opponents and won 3 playoff games to get to Super Bowl 60. Seattle has been pretty consistently excellent all season long. And according to Football Insider's DVOA, they're one of the best teams ever. Just to give you an idea, according to DVOA, if the Seahawks lose Super Bowl 60, number 1, I will still come into work on Monday. But number 2, only the 18-1 Patriots would have a higher DVOA among Super Bowl losers in history than the 2025 Seahawks. So the Patriots are a good team. You could argue an improving team. The numbers suggest the Seahawks might be an all-time team. That's hard to square, right? Like, goodness knows, I had trouble accepting it for an entire season. It's hard to square that you could consider a team, quarterbacked by Sam Darnold, a team not that far removed from not making the playoffs. They missed the playoffs last year. Consider them an all-time team, but that is the way that they have performed per the advanced numbers in 2025. So where does that talent advantage most show for Seattle? I think it's on the defensive line. So a Seattle win probably includes the Seattle pass rush depth, wearing down New England's offensive line, impacting Drake May, and limiting New England's explosive play opportunities through the air. That's a big deal because explosive plays on the ground just don't happen against the Seahawks. No team in the league was better at preventing explosive running plays. New England, though, and I've mentioned this a couple of times this week or the past couple of weeks, no team this year was better at generating explosive plays than the Patriots on a per-play basis. Now, more of those come through the air than on the ground, and again, Seattle's run defense is so stingy that they're not likely to allow a lot of explosive running plays. I think they've only allowed 1 in the entire postseason, in fact, in their 2 postseason wins against 2 teams that run the ball pretty well, San Francisco and the Rams. So limiting them through the air. Well, how do you make an explosive play through the air, right? Usually that's a long pass. What has to happen when you throw a long pass? You have to have time for your receiver to get down the field and get open. Well, if you don't have time, you can't make those plays. So Seattle making sure that May doesn't have time to make those plays limits the Patriots' ability to create explosive plays, and their offense really thrives on explosive plays. Seattle is the same way. Seattle was 4th best in the league on a per-play basis in creating explosives. A lot of those explosives came from Jackson Smith-Njigba, who might win Offensive Player of the Year this week. New England's defense on the year, and this is a strange stat to me because you think about New England's secondary, they got 3 solid to outstanding cornerbacks. Marcus Jones in the slot, Carlton Davis, and Christian Gonzalez on the outside. Gonzalez is top-tier player in the league at that position. But against number 1 wide receivers this season, New England's defense ranked 31st out of 32 teams in DVOA, had all kinds of trouble stopping number 1 wide receivers. And we know well, they did not exactly play a murderer's row of teams and of quarterbacks throughout the regular season, but they struggled against the other team's number 1 receiver. They struggle against Jackson Smith-Njigba. JSN has one of those games that looks like every other game he's had this season, just about 14 times over 92 receiving yards this year. Then that is how Seattle is able to not just create explosives, but to sustain drives through the air and maintain their offensive balance. So that's what I think a close Seahawks win probably looks like. Not enough explosives there for New England. Seattle gets theirs from JSN, creating opportunities in the running game. Seattle's also able to stay out of 3rd and long and obvious drop back situations. More about that in a second. And Sam Darnold avoids the critical mistake. The Seahawks were actually 2-1 this year in games where Darnold threw multiple interceptions. I think it was Houston and might have been Washington. No, it was the second Rams game. I guess I don't remember. But obviously the first Rams game, he threw 4 picks and they lost. But the other game where Darnold had multiple picks, Seattle won both. That's not likely to repeat in a game like the Super Bowl. So Sam Darnold able to avoid the crippling mistake, able to avoid multiple mistakes, throws a touchdown or 2, and he gets the narrative pick as Super Bowl MVP in a close Seahawks win that probably ends up looking something like, I'd say 21-17. 24-17, a 1-score game. That's probably what that version of Super Bowl 60 looks like. What about a close Patriots win? What's going to happen for the Patriots to pull what Vegas would consider an upset? Go back to that 3rd down point again. If the Patriots are able to take away Seattle's run and force Seattle into 3rd and long, that is where they really struggle. The Seahawks this year on 3rd and 7 or more yards, 27th in DVOA out of 32 teams. 27th best. Did not perform well in 3rd and 7 or better. The New England defense, conversely, quite decent in that same situation. They were 10th best. So not elite, but good, well above average against 3rd and long. What you also can't do on 3rd and long is run a lot of play action, because who's going to bite on a run fake on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12? Seattle's passing game lives on play action. Sam Darnold was the best quarterback in the league in play action this year. Very similar, in fact, to how he built his performance in Minnesota last season. No quarterback in the league better in play action. That's why you see Seattle throw on early downs a lot. But if you can take away the run and lessen the threat of the play action, if the New England Patriots jump out to an early lead and put Seattle in a game script that is a lot of passing and take away play action that way, and if they force Seattle into some 3rd and longs, they've got a chance to get off the field and keep Seattle's offense from doing what it did to the Rams in the NFC Championship game. The other thing the Patriots can do that could win this game close is they could break tendency. They do not typically have Christian Gonzalez shadow the other team's best wide receiver. They do it here and there, but it's not a frequent thing. Maybe they break tendency for the Super Bowl. A lot of teams break tendency for the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, very famously, broke tendency in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. And they did it because the circumstances of the matchup allowed them to. They broke tendency. They were a zone team for the better part of the season and a blitz team the better part of the season, but against that Chiefs weakened offensive line, the Buccaneers went into the Super Bowl 55 and said, oh, we're going to play a ton of man and we're going to rush 4. And obviously we know how that turned out. So breaking tendency is something teams will do in the Super Bowl. And it would not be a tendency of the Patriots to have their number one corner shadow the other team's number one wide receiver. Now, you're never going to get it 100% of the snaps. And Seattle's really creative with how they use JSN. They'll line him up in the backfield sometimes. They lined him up in the backfield for the touchdown he caught in the NFC Championship game. But if you're trying to limit his impact, if you're trying to keep him from going for 100+ and a score, maybe the Patriots decide the best way to do it is have Christian Gonzalez cover him all over the field. And if they are able to blunt JSN's impact in a way very few teams have this year, that makes the Seattle passing game more dependent on Rashid Shaheed, who has 1 catch in the playoffs, Cooper Kupp, who did nothing all season, but has, in fairness to playoff Cooper, looked really good in the postseason, and their suite of tight ends who are better blocking tight ends than they are receiving tight ends. So that could be a way the Patriots win. I also think the Patriots would have to make a significant special teams play in the return game. Marcus Jones is an outstanding kick returner. Seattle's special teams all around are better than New England's. They got a better kicker. They got a better punter. They probably got better coverage, and they're probably about equal when it comes to return men, Jones and Shaheed. But Jones making the game-flipping special teams play would, I think, be crucial in a Patriots win. Could steal them a possession, steal them field position, and give them easy points, if not just a direct kick return for a touchdown. And then on offense for the Patriots, we haven't really talked about their offense yet, but a close Patriots win probably includes Drake May being the chain mover for the Patriots with his legs. Of players who had more than 100 rush attempts in 2025, only Josh Allen had a higher success rate than Drake May. And he's been great with his legs in the postseason. Particularly was the only way, really, they could move the ball and pick up first downs at times against the Broncos defense in the AFC title game. But if Drake May's legs allow the Patriots to pick up a couple of 3rd and mediums or 3rd and longs and allow the Patriots to string together drives, which is something they've struggled to do and something the Seahawks defense doesn't typically allow, then Drake May will win the MVP and the Patriots will win a Super Bowl that might end up a little higher scoring than the expectation. Something like 31-27. 30-27, 27-24, something in that neighborhood. For the record, the Vegas total for the Super Bowl at Prairie Man Sportsbook is 45.5. So that would obviously, those scores would obviously clear that number pretty easily, and that would be the route to victory for the Patriots. We'll take a break. We're due for a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll come back. If the game is a dud, if the game is a blowout, what does that look like? It's easier to picture that for the favorite than it is for the underdog. But we'll talk about what a blowout win for the Seahawks would look like, what a blowout win for the Patriots would look like. Then we're going to talk some baseball and how bringing the fences in might fix Jac Caglianone. And we got some K-State hoops to talk about. Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Zach Watkins, Washburn football signing day. We'll hear from him. So much more to get to on the program today. Really glad you're along for the ride here on 580 Sports Talk. 332, 333 now on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero hanging out with you. Glad you're here on the show today. Talking about the four versions of Super Bowl 60. We talked about what the close games might mean. We'll take a look at what the blowouts might mean. We referenced the statistics. We referenced a lot of advanced stats. And even though I couldn't give you the formulas or sit down and calculate it play over play, I still think there's value in the advanced numbers because front offices across any league will tell you there is good information in the analytics and that those are going to tell you more than the raw numbers. I might not know how to calculate like weighted runs created plus in baseball. I know what it means. I know what it signifies. I know what the number measures. Can I sit down and do the equation? Probably not. But do front offices across baseball use that as a predictive measure more so than batting average? Hell yeah, they do. So they are important. Vance asked what DVOA meant. For those people who don't know, and we try not to like overwhelm you, go crazy with the numbers, but DVOA is one of the most widely known. It's the team equivalent of wins above replacement in baseball, basically, where it is widely known and not, 100% known, but widely known and widely accepted as one of the better measures and evaluations of team quality. Like wins above replacement is widely known as a good measurement of player quality in baseball. Anyway, they're different numbers. They measure different things because they're different sports, but you get the idea. DVOA stands for defense adjusted value over average, and it's a measure of team efficiency based on every play. But it's adjusted for context. It's adjusted for opponent. It's adjusted for game situation. It's adjusted for the weather. It's adjusted for indoors, outdoors. It's pretty wide-ranging calculation. And so we use it as shorthand here, not meant to be the end-all, be-all, but an interesting number to look at and say, interesting. Relative to the rest of the league, that says the Patriots are good or not good at this, or this player is good or not good at this. So that is the use that we have for it. Again, I don't endeavor to overwhelm with the numbers. I just try to use them to enhance the argument or point to something that I think is interesting. Anyhow, back to the four versions of Super Bowl 60. We talked about the close games. What do the blowouts look like? Because they're favored, it's easier to picture a Seahawks blowout. A lot of you are telling me, a lot of people in my life are telling me that's what they expect, which always makes my teeth itch. That makes me a little nervous. But a Seahawks blowout probably looks a little bit like Super Bowl 48 did for the Seahawks against the Broncos, where they just don't let the other offense do anything. This is, by several statistical measures, including DVOA, the best defense in football. And while the Patriots have played and beaten teams with good defenses throughout their run to the playoffs, top 10 defenses, in fact, the Chargers, the Texans, and the Broncos, the Seahawks are better than those defenses. And while there's no snow happening to jam a further stick into New England's bicycle spokes on offense, this is still a better defense than any of the ones that they have faced to this point. And if the Patriots' offensive performance looks like their first three postseason games, where Drake May is sacked 5 times, because that is the average, he has eaten 5 sacks per game, 15 sacks in 3 playoff games. If Drake May gets sacked 5 times, if he loses a fumble, if the big pass plays are just not there for the Patriots, they're going to struggle to move the ball down the field consistently. If they can't block, if Will Campbell has another bad game, if DeMarcus Lawrence is living in the backfield, if Uchenna Nwosu or Boye Mafe makes a big play, if Jaron Reed, Chief Great, has a sack from the interior, if Nicky Manwari or Devin Witherspoon are making impacts as blitzers, then it's going to be really hard for the Patriots to score. And if it's hard for them to score, Seattle's going to get a lot of short fields, and it's going to be, in turn, a little easier for them to score. I also think a Seahawks blowout includes one big special teams play from Rashid Shaheed that either leads directly to or is a touchdown. And I think Kenneth Walker Jr. has a big game. If the Seahawks blow out the Patriots, I think Walker will win the MVP. I think he will win the MVP because he will have the kind of game that allows the Seahawks to live in those third and shorts and allows Darnold to just dissect the Patriots in play action. And I think he's probably the guy who finishes drives with touchdowns, probably scores multiple touchdowns. I don't think it would be a high-scoring blowout. Like, I don't think it would literally be 43-8 like Super Bowl 48 was. But I think it would look maybe like 27-7, 27-10. More so that than like 38-20, because I just don't think Seattle would score that much. So that's what a blowout would look like from the Seattle perspective. What about the Patriots? What if they blow out the Seahawks? Well, number one, I would still come into work on Monday. The sun would still come up. Number two, it's hard to envision a Patriots blowout without seeing the Sam Darnold game we have all, hand up, me included, been expecting to see pretty much the entire last month and a half of the season. If Seattle can't run the ball, if New England pins their ears back on third and long and they get a lot of that interior pressure from Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, and Sam Darnold, maybe he doesn't see ghosts, but the feet get a little choppy, the decision-making gets a little iffy, and he throws the ball to the wrong team more than once. A multi-turnover Darnold game probably leads to the Seahawks getting blown out. On the flip side, I think any version of the Patriots winning is Drake May wins the game MVP. And I think that May is then able to hit on some explosive passes and move the chains with his legs and just has a game that kind of looks like Jalen Hurts in Super Bowl 57 against the Chiefs, only it would come in a winning effort. Where I think Hurts rushed for 70 yards in that game, which is a record for quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. Like if May rushes for 50, 60 yards and he hits on a couple of deep balls that lead to scoring drives, number one, he definitely win MVP. And number two, that would allow New England to score in such a way that would allow them to blow Seattle out. That probably looks, given the variance of turnovers, I think a Patriots blowout probably is higher scoring for the Patriots than it is a Seahawks blowout would be higher scoring for the Seahawks. I think a Patriots blowout would be a lot of short fields and great offense against the Seattle defense that doesn't have to work hard because of the short fields. And I think a Seahawk blowout would probably look like a game where New England's 3 and out a lot and maybe has one big turnover. So those are the four versions of Super Bowl 60. Which outcome do you think is most likely? Close Seahawks win, close Patriots win, blowout Seahawks win, blowout Patriots win. Let me know in the YouTube chat, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, or on the text line, 785-272-9429. We're going to pivot to some baseball when we come back. Hard pivot, I know, but we're a week away from the Royals reporting to surprise for the start of spring training. And an interesting article about Jac Caglianone today over at Fangraphs and the one tendency he has that the new fences could fix. We'll talk about it on 580 Sports Talk. 344 on 580 Sports Talk. Some thoughts from the live chat on YouTube. Some Super Bowl predictions. Ryan says 27-20 Seahawks. The ending will be the exact opposite of the Super Bowl when they didn't give the ball to Lynch. Does that mean you think the Seahawks will score the winning touchdown in the final 30 seconds, or that Devin Witherspoon intercepts a pass in the end zone at the 1-yard line? Because I don't know if my heart could take either of those, if if we're being honest. Mark Hates thinks it'll be a one-score game, touchdown game. Andrew says expects 24-21 Seattle. Not going to be a blowout, a run-heavy game to keep the defensive lines on both sides at bay. You're not the only one to expect it's going to be kind of a cagey game, Andrew. I read Ben Solak of ESPN's preview today. He had 5 matchups that he felt like were going to decide Super Bowl 60, and his score prediction is Seahawks 16, Patriots 13, and have the same thought, basically, that both teams are going to be kind of cagey. They don't want to, teams that are not going to make the big mistake and kind of trust their defenses, that Seattle will be willing to trust its defense, trust its special teams. I think they trust Sam Darnold, though. And Darnold's been really good in the playoffs. I know, famous last words, right? But I don't think they're going to come out and go into a shell on offense. I think they're going to take some shots. I think most of them are going to be in play action early downs, but I think they're going to take some shots. I don't think it's going to be run on first down, run on second down, pass if we need to on third down from Seattle. I would be really surprised if that's how it ended up. But you're not the only one who thinks that, Andrew, so you could be right. Vance goes Seahawks 31-27, so it is unanimous in the chat for now that Seattle will win. Your lips to God's ears, guys. 1 week from today, the official report date for the Kansas City Royals pitchers and catchers for spring training in Surprise, Arizona. And thoughts turn to baseball, naturally. Michael Bowman had an article today at Fangraphs about Jac Caglianone. There's no real way to sugarcoat just how bad Cags was last year at the plate. Like, you really look at the numbers, it's one of the worst debuts in the history of Major League Baseball. He had 232 plate appearances. That is a meaningful sample size, and he hit 157 with a 532 OPS. And he was worth less than a win above replacement. Not less than a win, negative, more than a win below replacement. Let's put it that way. More than a win below replacement, because not only did he not produce at the plate, his glove wasn't any great shakes because he was playing a brand new position. I think long-term Cags is probably a DH. That's going to have to wait until Salvi's done playing, probably. But Cags wasn't a great right fielder right away, which that's understandable. That's forgivable. The idea that he didn't hit, that was a little more unexpected. And Bowman points to all the reasons that you have for optimism that this year is going to be better. Caglianone was super unlucky. If you watched the games, you saw this. How many times did it seem like Caglianone hit a 108-mile-an-hour rope right at the center fielder, or a fly ball that just died at the warning track? Hard hit balls that turned into outs. Felt like nobody had more, even in just a third of a season for the Royals, than Jac Caglianone. And the numbers back that up. His batting average on balls in play last year, 172. The league average usually fluctuates around 280 or so. So just better luck is going to help Cags, could help him add 100 points of batting average if he's just average with his batting average on balls in play. And Caglianone does have some swing and miss in his game. He'll strike out. He's a little bit above average in that department, but he's not so bad at making contact that you wonder if he's ever going to get to his in-game power. He actually makes a ton of contact in the strike zone, which is good. That's promise. That's what you want. That was MJ Melendez's big problem, right? He couldn't hit pitches in the strike zone. That's why we're probably never going to see him. Certainly not going to see him in a Royals uniform again, but we may never see him in the big leagues again. He couldn't hit the ball when it was in the zone. Cags can make contact with the ball in the zone. The problem isn't an inability to make contact. It's the kind of contact. This is from the article. In 2025, nearly a quarter of Caglianone's batted balls were pull-side ground balls. Ground balls for Caglianone, a left-handed hitter, to the second baseman or the first baseman. You know what those are called? Outs. Pull-side ground balls are outs. Unless they have eyes, and you don't control that as a hitter, those are outs. That was the 30th highest rate of pull-side ground balls hit in all of baseball. Only 16% of Cags' batted balls were in the air to the pull side. That's where you get cheap home runs. That's where you get those home runs that just sneak over the wall. So why did Cags, after mashing the ball over fence after fence in AA and AAA, all of a sudden become a ground ball merchant in the major leagues? Well, a quote from this article from Mike Petrello at MLB.com today. He wrote about what he expects the impact of the new dimensions at Kauffman Stadium with the fences coming in. He heard a quote from Alex Zumwalt on MLB Network Radio after the World Series this year, when the Royals had not publicly announced they were going to change the fences, but probably internally knew that that was a possibility. And Alex Zumwalt was talking to MLB Network Radio's Power Alley show, and he said this, quote, "I always think about it as perspective. If your mindset is to lift the ball and hit really high fly balls, then Kauffman is a really good place for you to make a lot of outs," end quote. So if you're a young hitter and your whole thing is I hit the ball in the air to the pull side, that's what I do. That's that's how I generate power. I'm going to be a home run guy. And then you get to the major leagues and a ballpark that doesn't reward that. Well, what do you try to do? Well, you're trying to help your team, right? You're trying to get hits. You're trying to get on base. You see that batting average on the big scoreboard under 200, and you think, man, I got to get that up over 200. I got to start getting some hits. And you know how you don't get hits at Kauffman Stadium? Hitting the ball in the air to the pull side. So the fences coming in could benefit Jac Caglianone's approach and batted ball tendencies as much as any young hitter or any hitter, period, for the Royals in 2026. And if he is lifting the ball more, he has the kind of bat speed, he has the kind of exit velocity numbers that can allow him to start generating the sort of power that he's capable of producing. And if he's doing that, then he is the impact bat that the Royals sorely, sorely need to make a real run at the AL Central and a deep postseason push in 2026. And that's what the Royals are banking on, frankly. Like, offseason's just about over. They didn't go get a veteran impact bat. They got some supplemental guys. They got Isaac Collins, who I think he's an on-base guy. He's going to be on base. That's going to help. They went and got Lane Thomas. He can deputize for a left-handed outfielder against a tough lefty. That's useful. But they didn't go get a middle-of-the-order guy. They think that's Cags, and to a lesser extent, Carter Jensen, who made a much better debut, but in a smaller sample size. But if Cags can get out of the mentality of, I can't hit it in the air because it's an out, and get back into the mentality of, if I hit it in the air, I get to walk around the bases if I want. That's what's going to change his fortunes more than anything else. Better luck will help, but so too will hitting the ball in the air more. And he'll be in an environment that will encourage that. And I think those are the two reasons to be really, really optimistic that 2025 is the outlier. And in 2026 and beyond, we're going to see Jack mashing at the K and elsewhere in the middle of that Royals order. I'm feeling good about it. I am. I'm feeling optimistic about it. He's on my fantasy team. I won't trade him. I get a lot of offers for Caglianone. He's untouchable for me. I believe in him. I also believe in MJ Melendez. But that ain't this and this ain't that, right? Optimism. It's February. Hope springs eternal. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up the hour of 580 Sports Talk. Here's another way you know baseball's getting close on 580 Sports Talk. The Bard weighs in, our resident Royals poet. Jack having so much darn fun hitting so many home runs, but the major leagues called and his bat really stalled. Why is he hitting a $151? Well, Christopher, Bard, excuse me, hit the ball on the ground too much. And the Royals believe that this has stalled out the development of a lot of their hitters who come up as power prospects and then are discouraged from pursuing power at Kauffman Stadium. They think it hurt Eric Hosmer's development as a power hitter. They think it hurt Mike Moustakas' development, who, down the line started hitting for more power, but early in his career, that stalled for him. They think it probably hurt MJ Melendez's development, Nick Prado's development. And they think it was hurting Jac Caglianone's development. They moved these fences in for Jac Caglianone as much as they did for any other player. I really believe that. Because the Royals, I think, understand this. They need one more stud to go with Bobby Witt Jr. for as long as he's under contract. And if he's cost controlled, so much the better. That's what's going to give him a chance to make a bunch of playoff appearances while Bobby Witt Jr. is a Royal. And as such, give them a better chance of retaining Bobby Witt Jr. over the years. Cags is that guy. The power is so real. You saw it. Went over all three walls in center field in a game. Nobody does that. The guys who do are the guys with elite power, like Bobby Witt Jr., Jorge Soler. The guys I've seen do it. Jack can do that, but you can't hit a ground ball for a home run. You just can't. So with more encouragement that, hey, if you hit a fly ball, it will leave the park here. Hit more fly balls, hit more home runs. Simple as, or at least the Royals are hoping so. 4 things wrong with K-State basketball. We're going to talk about it next hour, and we'll talk to Tim Fitzgerald. GoPowerCat.com, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Forgot we had overtime today. Want to apologize for that. We're actually with you for 3.5 hours today here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube. WIBW News is the name of the Facebook page. I got flustered by that realization that we are with you until 6:30 tonight here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, taking you up to coverage of K-State women in action. Tonight, they take on Arizona in Tucson. It's a 7 o'clock tip-off, so pregame coverage will start at 6:30, which means we'll take you up to that broadcast with little 580 Sports Talk overtime conversation of the day. Our conversation with Tim Fitzgerald coming up later on this hour. Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Tim Fitzgerald, publisher at GoPowerCat.com. Get his take on, is this rock bottom or can it get worse for Kansas State basketball? Also get his other perspective on other things happening around Kansas State athletics. They had a baseball media day today. In fact, P. Hughes spoke to the media today. And they announced a few more signings, commitments to their football program, including a few in-state players. Arlie Morrell, Cash J, Nash Morrison. Not Cash J, Blake J. Cash J, former Washburn baseball player. Blake J. So we'll get Fitz's perspective on some of those new additions to Colin Klein's program. That's coming up at the bottom of this hour. I'll give you my thoughts. I'll give you the 4 things I think have gone wrong with Kansas State men's basketball. The 4 problems and the one biggest one that have created the conditions for the misery that this 2025-26 season has been for Jerome Tang and K-State. That's coming up. Plus, what is wrong with you? On the round of what is wrong with you, 2 new stories today. That is coming up this hour as well. Want to hear from you on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. You can also get at me in the live chat on our YouTube stream. Again, we stream live on YouTube every day that we're on the air. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Go check it out if you have not before. Go subscribe to it if you have not already. Hit that little bell button. I think it's a bell that you can tap or click. And that subscribes you to our YouTube channel. And you hop in the live chat, say hello, interact with your fellow listeners, interact with your hosts, grow the 580 Sports Talk community and 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. It is not real fun to talk about Kansas State basketball right now. I want to acknowledge that off the top, but we're halfway through the Big 12 season. They're 1-8 in conference play. They're speeding toward irrelevance. It might not be rock bottom for the program. It could still get worse this year. They've got some tough games still ahead. There's a lot of consternation about the size of Jerome Tang's buyout. Is that something that Kansas State can even afford? Is that something that boosters or donors have the will to raise the money to do? I think it was Fitz who, joining us last week, said, you know, if you're going to donate that kind of money, whether it's the entirety of the buyout for Jerome Tang, which is $18.675 million, if you're going to donate, if you've got that kind of scratch and you want to donate it to Kansas State athletics, wouldn't you just as soon want Colin Klein in the football program to get that money? Wouldn't you just as soon donate to an NIL fund for the football team at this point and just say, look, man, Gene Taylor, you dug your own hole with that buyout. I'm not going to dig your way out of it. Give this money to the football team. Give this money to women's basketball. Build them back up. Jeff Mittie, get some players in, get some vets in to supplement a team this year that's been about 500 in the league. Give it to baseball. I'm not writing a check for a buyout. Like, wouldn't you? And think about it. If you had $1 million to give to Kansas State right now, what would you rather write the check to? Fire a coach or supplement a program of your choice? Maybe you view men's basketball as a program of your choice, and you view paying the buyout as supplementing that program. That's up to your perspective. But there's a very real chance that the kind of big money donors that Kansas State would need to get on board to make sure that buyout was covered would just as soon say, let's give it to a native son. Let's give it to Colin Klein. Let's give it to the NIL fund for that program. And yeah, you can wait. You can wait for the buyout to drop. Buyout drops May 1st, but you're not firing a basketball coach May 1st. That's not the time to fire a basketball coach. Not in this era where you fire a coach May 1st. I don't know what your roster looks like. Doesn't matter who you hire. You're in for a bumpy ride. You could resurrect Red Auerbach and put him on the K-State sideline. If you fire Jerome Tang May 1st, your roster would be a mess. So that doesn't work. If it's $3 million that you're worried about saving, you may as well just give Tang another year. Honest to goodness. But it's as I've said before. If Kansas State wants to do it, they'll do it. If a donor wants to front all $18.675 million, or a collaboration of donors want to come up with that money, they will. And if there's not a will to do that, then there won't be a way. But there are a lot of things wrong with Kansas State right now. I said 4 things at the end of the hour, and Vance jokingly in the YouTube chat asked, just 4? And that's fair. That's entirely fair. There are a lot of things wrong with the program. And the reason that it feels especially frustrating, I didn't really realize this until I sat down and looked at it. The 2010s are the best decade in the modern history of Kansas State basketball. From the 2010-11 season to the 2019-20 season, Kansas State went to 7 NCAA tournaments in 10 years. 1 Elite Eight. It's the only time they made the second weekend, but they made 1 Elite Eight, and they won 2 Big 12 championships. That's the best decade K-State basketball's had in modern history. For the purposes of modern history of college basketball, we'll refer to the 64-team era in the NCAA tournament, 64 or 68 teams. From 2000, 2001 to 2009, 2010, K-State made 2 tournaments. And it was in 2010. They made the Elite Eight in 2010. In the 90s, 2 NCAA tournaments. In the 80s, 6 NCAA tournaments, 3 second weekends, 3 regional appearances, but important to note that 2 of those, Rolando Blackman, that era, 81, 82, I believe, those were before the tournament expanded to 64 teams. So when you really consider the modern history of what we understand college basketball to be, and honest to goodness, you could say that we're in a different era now than we were in the 2010s and the 2000s. That was the best decade of Kansas State men's basketball in modern history. All due respect to those great teams, the 70s, 60s, 50s, the Final Four teams, Final Four banners that are up at Bramlage Coliseum. Modern history of Kansas State basketball, there's never been a better decade than the 2010s. So this futility in the 2020s feels that much more acute because of the success experienced the decade before. So how do we get here? Why is Kansas State in the mess that they're in? For me, there are a lot of reasons. I narrowed it down to 4, and the one at the top is the one that makes the biggest difference. The one at the top is where everything else filters down to. Kansas State is a bad basketball program right now because of poor talent evaluation, poor player development, over-reliance on the transfer portal, and the number one thing at the top of the list, a lack of an identity. When you ask the question, what should Kansas State basketball be? I answer that question with a question. What is Kansas State basketball? How do you define what Kansas State basketball is or should be? to accomplish what Kansas State wants to accomplish in terms of postseason achievement. And look, I do not think it is unreasonable to suggest that though there may be a rebuilding year in a cycle, a down year, a year where you do miss the tournament because you're in a very tough basketball league with a lot of either blue bloods or programs who right now are experiencing a great deal of success. I don't think it's reasonable to say, oh, we're going to make the tournament every year, but 7 times in 10 years? Like, why not? Why wouldn't you shoot for that? Why wouldn't you feel good about that, as I think a lot of programs in Kansas State choose, with similar recruiting territory, with similar modern history, with similar resources, would feel great about going to 7 tournaments in 10 years. But to accomplish even that, you have to know how you're going to do it. Jerome Tang talked at the end of last season about wanting to follow the Houston model with his roster. And Kelvin Sampson has successfully blended big deal recruits, and the caliber of recruit has increased as Houston's stature as a program has increased, first in joining the Big 12, but also with the national level success that they've had, making deep tournament runs, playing for a national title last year. That's a great strategy for how to build a roster. It is. It's a really nice idea. It's probably what you have to do. All of the successful programs in the Big 12 have done some measure of that. They have supplemented their recruiting with additions from the transfer portal. It can't just be one or the other in modern college basketball, because you do need to add to your roster and patch holes, and do that with guys who are maybe coming up a level, or maybe guys who didn't get the great opportunity at another Power 5 institution. That's a great way to build a roster. It is. It is. It's working for Houston. It's working for Iowa State. It's worked for Kansas. It's a great way to build a roster, but you know what it isn't? An identity. Houston's teams win not because of how they put their rosters together, but because of how they play. If you're going to be a Houston Cougar, you know what is expected of you. You know what a Houston Cougar is, right? You can picture a player. I tell you, what's a Houston Cougar? You tell me, tough as hell on defense, makes the right play, plays hard for 40 minutes, physical, nasty. You know what a Houston Cougar is. You know how they play. They have an identity. Iowa State has an identity. Kansas has an identity. Texas Tech, they've got an identity. You know who used to have an identity and doesn't anymore, and that's why they're not very good? Baylor. Baylor had an identity. Now they don't. And now they kind of stink. Identity matters, because identity is how everything else comes together. How do you navigate the transfer portal? You bring in guys that fit your program. How do you recruit? You get kids who are excited about joining your program, playing the way you play, joining the culture that you've created. How do you develop players? You bring them up through the system. You have veterans who played there for multiple years to show them the ropes, and they grow in a system, in a culture, in an identity. That's how you build. That's how you win. What's Kansas State's identity? I asked the question on Monday. I'll ask it again. What is Kansas State's identity as a basketball program? How do they want to play? What does a K-State win look like? What does their identity look like? A lot of their identity, such as it is, has flowed from their point guards. Jerome Tang's teams have only been as good as their point guards. They've gone from Marquise Noel's an All-American, to Tyler Perry, who's a good player but limited as a point guard, to Doug McDaniel, who did not get along with his coach, to now PJ Haggerty, who is entirely miscast as a point guard. But follow the leader, follow your point guard, go as he goes. That's not really an identity. What's their defensive identity? What's their scheme? Here's an even better question for you. What do they run? What do they do? Like, you know what Iowa State does on defense. They trap the sidelines. They trap the wings. They trap the baselines. They're aggressive as hell. They force a bunch of turnovers. Houston just gets up in your grill one-on-one. What's an offensive identity? Kansas, they used to have the identity they play too big. And, a lot of that too big offense stuff. But it's a lot of set plays, a lot of execution, a lot of work within the offense. Those teams have identities. Kansas State has never had a clear picture of what kind of basketball team they wanted to be under Jerome Tang. They've never had it. And coming in, you kind of assumed it was going to look a lot like the successful Baylor teams. Again, hellacious defensively, skilled guards leading the way on offense. Kind of thought, okay, that's going to be the model. Big man who can rim run and block shots. Jerome Tang follows that. Okay, that's fine. That's an identity. That's something you can grab onto. They've never developed that. They've never consistently had a clear identity offensively or defensively of the kind of basketball team they want to be. And that hurts player retention. It's also caused in part by player retention. There's also this. If Jerome Tang wants to do the Houston model, that means you have to recruit good high school players and bring them through your program and have them in your program for a long time. Here are the guys Kansas State has signed as high school players under Jerome Tang. Dorian Finister was the only freshman signee to play on the Elite 8 team. And right now, Dorian Finister is a good Sun Belt player on a bad Sun Belt team. He's at Louisiana. It's his third stop. He was in Conference USA for a year. Now he's in the Sun Belt. Not a Big 12 player. Taj Manning was a signee the next year, one of four. Taj Manning still at Kansas State. Play hard guy. Ideally, he's a guy you have like three or four more of. Culture guys who set the expectation with their effort. But as a player, not a Big 12 player. The other signees that year aren't around anymore. Buddy Rich is coming off the bench for UTSA in the American, or at least he was coming off the bench for them before he got hurt. RJ Jones can't get off the bench at TCU. I think he's played like 7 games this year. Day-Day Ames is a good player in a high major league. He's averaging about 17 a game for Cal this year. You saw Ames light up K-State at Bramlage earlier this season. Good player. Why didn't he stick around? Would you rather have CJ Jones or would you rather have Day-Day Ames? Why isn't Day-Day Ames growing in this program? But that's the one. And then the other high school signees 2 years ago was David Castillo, who was a top 100 player coming out of high school. That was a big hit. That was a big grab for Jerome Tang in recruiting. And David Castillo is a sophomore and has had flashes where he looks like a very good player. He can score in the Big 12. It's not real big, so he's limited defensively. And he's having to play alongside another ball-dominant guard, which hurts his development. But David Castillo's a hit. That's a success for me because I think he is a Big 12 player, and he's been around 2 years. For now, that's a success. Last year, they signed one high school kid, Xavier Wilson. He's redshirting, and I would take the under on career games at Kansas State for Xavier Wilson. Meanwhile, Kansas State, has chased their tail on adding 5-star recruits. And look, like I said, they got Castillo. Regional guys from Oklahoma. Kansas State wasn't far. But there have been high-profile whiffs on guys like Patrick Gongba, who went to Duke, A.J. DeBonsa, who took the bag from BYU, Darren Peterson, who obviously ended up at Kansas. These top-tier, top 10 guys, they're not coming to Kansas State. They're just not going to. And that has led, certainly there's an NIL budget. There's an appetite for success at Kansas State that is shown by the NIL budget. But that NIL budget has to go somewhere, and that NIL budget has gone to players in the transfer portal who are not star players, but are being paid like star players. If you're going to pay dudes in the transfer portal, they better be stars. They paid Coleman Hawkins like a leading man when he was a supporting actor. And there's nothing wrong with being a supporting actor. But when you're paying him like a leading man and he doesn't produce like a leading man, it makes your team worse. But it's a lot of chasing in recruiting guys that Kansas State just isn't going to get. Think about some of the guys that Iowa State has recruited successfully, because somebody on the text line recently pointed to Iowa State as a barometer. Why can't Kansas State be doing as well as Iowa State? Well, you look at some of the guys they recruited from high school. Taman Lipsey's from Ames, right? Like Some of this is geography. Some of this is there hasn't been a 4, high 3, 4, 5-star guy come through the state of Kansas in recent years. Say what you will about Keaton Wagler, he wasn't that. Keaton Wagler, who's lighting it up, he's going to be a lottery pick. A little bit unexpected, a little bit of a diamond in the rough. But that's the kind of player Kansas State should be recruiting. They should be winning recruiting battles in their own state. There's but so much high major Division I talent in the state of Kansas. That is true. That's always going to be true. But if you're Kansas State, you got to get those guys. Kansas isn't going to recruit those guys. Kansas recruits nationally because they're a national brand. If you're Kansas State, you focus on the state. Bring in some guys for whom Kansas State matters. Bring in some guys who are going to be around 3 years. And if they're not, it's because they developed beyond your wildest dreams. Like, I'm sure Brad Underwood looked at Keaton Wagler and thought, this is a 4-year guy. And now he's going to go pro and be a lottery pick. Sometimes you strike gold. But Iowa State, back to their point, like they got Taman Lipsey, and he's been there for 3 years. He's from Ames. Milan Momcilovic, small town in Wisconsin. Those are TJ Otzelberger's ties. He went to Wisconsin Whitewater. The one big deal recruit Iowa State got, like the high major recruit, 5-star guy, Omaha Bill U. Remember him? Remember that name? You probably don't. He's at Wake Forest now, coming off the bench. Wasn't really as good as the prospect hype. But how'd they get him? How'd they get a 5-star guy like Omaha Bill U? He was from Iowa. Otzelberger and company aren't out there trying to get A.J. DeBonsa to come to Iowa State. They know who they are. Know thyself. They know who they are, and they know how they want to play, and they recruit accordingly, and they pick players from the transfer portal accordingly because they know who they are. And until Kansas State figures out who they are, whether it's under Jerome Tang or somebody else, there's no fixing what's wrong. Because to fix what's wrong, you first must decide, who are we, what do we want to be, and how do we want to play? If Jerome Tang doesn't settle on that, he won't have this job much longer. If the next guy, whoever that is, whenever that is, doesn't settle on that, he won't have the job very long either. We'll take a break. We'll come back with What Is Wrong With You, and Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com joining us as well next on the program, 580 Sports Talk. It's What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. We got 2 new stories to compete today, and joining us with a story today, Spencer Dupuis. Spencer, hi.
Hi, I'm my daily check-in to make sure I'm still here. I still am employed.
You are. You're still doing the thing. You're holding it down. Greg Akagi's out, so you got to hold down the whole ag desk yourself.
Yeah, Greg Akagi's in Nashville at a CattleCon convention.
He didn't take you?
No.
And you gotta see if you can't tag along next time, right?
Somebody's got to be here to do that.
No, you got to hold it down. We appreciate you doing that. And I know the folks who whose livelihoods depend on that information appreciate you as well. Our current champion is I'm in love with a stripper, the gentleman who used counterfeit money to buy a stripper a bouquet of flowers and try to pay a bar tab with counterfeit money.
They clearly said this is counterfeit money.
I got to be honest. I thought the meat theft story from yesterday, and we've had a lot of meat theft stories. I don't know why that's a thing. I thought that should have won. That would have been my vote yesterday for the week.
I think we've just had too many, man.
Because the guy ditched all the meat when he came home and he found his wife cooking, or his object of his affection cooking with someone else.
Yeah.
Like, kind of heartbreaking,
I mean,
to be honest.
A lot of people in that situation might have thrown the meat at the dude. So
just listen.
I think it would have really won if that was what happened.
I just got to say, I would be crushed if I came home and I found the woman of my affections seasoning someone else's meat.
Yes.
That's how I would feel. 2 news stories today, Spencer. Why don't you go first?
Yes. I've got to steer a good way on this one. A Florida man was arrested at the end of January for indecent exposure after he allegedly engaged in a sexual performance act with a vacuum cleaner.
That what?
At a gated resort near Disney World.
What is a sexual performance? Like a dance number? Was there music?
According to police witnesses...
Was there a curtain? Maybe there should have been.
According to police, witnesses provided statements and a cell phone recording showing Kevin Dale Westerhold, 51, partially clothed and communing with the appliance. Deputies responded Thursday to the Windsor Hills Resort in Kissimmee, Florida, after receiving 911 calls about the male suspect's lewd vacuum encounter. By the time cops arrived on the scene, the man had left the area. A subsequent investigation resulted in the identification of Westerhold, who cops say is suspected based upon witness account and video evidence of several other instances of indecent exposure at the property. Him and his wife own condos at the resort, which they rent out on Airbnb. Westerhold was arrested Tuesday at his residence in Oviedo, a Seminole County city about 35 miles away from Kissimmee. He's booked charged with exposure of sexual organs, a misdemeanor. He was booked in a county jail with a $2,500 bond.
A sexual performance with a vacuum cleaner. As a texter from the 785 put it, doesn't that suck? Look, it's probably just a funny way to put like something that's like, if you were asked, what would it look like for a dude to commune sexually with a vacuum cleaner? You probably could picture in your head what's really happening here. It's just very funny to see the term engaged in a sexual performance.
Yeah.
Like, did he do karaoke while it was going on? Or were there puppets? I hope none of those things are true. This story is gross.
Yeah, and the fact that people recorded him too.
Yeah, man. I don't think that was for... I mean, if it was a performance, maybe it was for...
it's definitely that one meme. You know the video meme where it's like the Jet 2 holiday?
Uh-huh.
Somebody definitely posted that somewhere with the Jet 2 holiday meme.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. All right, we're going to go to Kinston, North Carolina for my story. They had a big snowstorm out east in places that aren't really accustomed to massive snowstorms. Like Nashville was in some rough shape, and Kinston, North Carolina took a beating snow-wise. Shuts a lot of things down, right? Places closed, roads closed, but you know what doesn't stop happening? People getting hungry. So a gentleman decided he would take matters into his own hands, not just for himself, but for the community. And he broke into a Little Caesars after closing time and started making and selling pizzas. An arrest was made after the suspect tried to do it a second time. 41-year-old Jonathan Hackett, a former employee of this particular Little Caesars in Kinston, had unlawfully entered the business on 2 separate occasions. During the first incident, Hackett entered the business, prepared pizzas, sold them to customers, and kept the money for himself. During the second incident, he again broke into the business while it was occupied Employees attempted to prevent Hackett from entering, which resulted in a physical altercation. Hackett was injured during the brawl and taken to a hospital for treatment. He's being charged with 3 felonies, including breaking and or entering, obtaining property by false pretenses, and larceny after breaking and entering. He's also facing other misdemeanor charges. Investigators did not report how many pizzas the suspect made and sold to unaware customers. So here's a question. Are you eating a bootleg Little Caesars?
No.
Even if the guy knew how to make it, former employee, just walked in and say, hey, look, man, people need some food. I got some hot and readies. Let's get it going.
No.
I would eat Little Caesars pizza under any circumstances. It's good. I will not apologize for my beliefs on Little Caesars pizza. Little Caesars pizza tells you exactly what it is, the appeal of it. It is hot and it is ready. You show up, you get one. It's hot, it's ready. That is the promise. And this guy was ready to make some hot and readies for a community that needed him. I won't say a hero, but sometimes there's a man. All right, who wins today?
I feel like that.
You going with the pizza story?
Dude, it's disgusting. I don't want to think about a dude getting using a vacuum cleaner.
Doing
again.
sex to a vacuum cleaner is really gross. Yeah, we'll go with our Little Caesars, our bootleg Little Caesars. Does that beat I'm in love with a stripper?
No.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. We'll go with I'm in love with a stripper. That continues as our winner on What Is Wrong With You. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next on 580 Sports Talk.
It all comes down to this, folks. If the entire
We are joined on the Flame Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is the Wildcat Wrap-Up, presented by Tall Grass Windows and Doors, who provide high-quality products at affordable prices. You can check out their showrooms in either Wamego or Lawrence, or visit them online at tallgrasswindows.com. Excellence without exception. That's Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Excellence without exception. That is not Kansas State basketball right now. 34-point home loss to the Iowa State Cyclones on Sunday. One of the worst home losses in history for Kansas State. And it struck me watching that game, Fitz, not just that they got blown out, just how few Big 12 caliber players are on the floor right now for Kansas State. And that, to me, even granting that they're missing some guys and guys who do help them, guys who played a lot of minutes for them before they got hurt, how do you end up with this many just non-competitive players on the floor? It's PJ Haggerty against the world right now for Kansas State.
And I can even see some flaws in what he does, because I'd like to go back and watch film, see how many points he gives up, because his defense isn't great. But I'm not going to call anyone not capable of playing in the Big 12. But I'll say this, they don't have enough guys that are ready to do so at this point. They've got guys that seem to be more developmental than they thought they would be. Maybe Doran Buka is a little bit ahead of where they thought he'd be, but they just don't have enough dudes that can play. And now they've lost some dudes that were halfway good. And what I mean by that is they play defense or offense well, but not both. Or they're not great at either one, but not horrible. They're just not a complete team because they don't have complete players. And that adds up to a bunch of losses against good opponents, which is what you're facing in the Big 12.
Iowa State is a team that you know how they play. You can define how Iowa State plays, just like you can define how Houston plays. You can define how Kansas plays. These programs have set and solid identities. Why is it that it does not feel like Kansas State has been able to create an identity for itself, a lasting identity for how they want to play and who they want to bring into the program and who they want to keep in the program? Why has that been a struggle for Jerome Tang and his staff? Because you try to define what is Kansas State basketball. I don't know, man. Stand around and watch point guard do stuff. Like, that's the only thing that has been stable over 4 years. Why has this program not been able to cling to an identity?
Well, it's a great point. Something I've been harping on as of late, that Jerome Tang's put together 4 teams. At no point has he built a program. There's no continuity to year. There's really no, solid things that they hang their hat on. This is how we play defense or offense. They just exist within the realm of that one season. This is their team this year. They'll come up with their own identity, and they'll go, play, and they're going to be whatever they are. The next year, it's a totally different slate. There's different players. They might be looking for different things to do. It's insanity. There is no Kansas State basketball program, so to speak. They have been fielding teams each year, and after 1 year of success, they have progressively got worse. And I think that is a strong indication of there's no existing program to hold up this team.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, is joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. This is the Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors. We do it every Wednesday at this time. Fitz, it's difficult to look at the lack of ability to keep a roster together and not point to that as a big reason why this team has struggled. I know you did a daily delivery earlier this week on the YouTube channel. You should subscribe to their YouTube like you should subscribe to ours, 580 Sports Talk. Theirs is the Go Power Cat YouTube page. Search Go Power Cat, go subscribe. I know you talked about the value of having those multi-year high school guys who stay in the program, who commit as freshmen and stay in the program. David Castillo and Taj Manning right now are 2 guys that, say what you will about their relative skill sets or their development, they seem to be, I think you put it, they're the most invested right now in playing hard every single night. Shouldn't the charge be to find more guys like that, particularly when recruiting high school talent, and maybe spend a little less time trying to recruit like a national powerhouse?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And first of all, the foundation of the program, the skeleton of a program, has to be your recruiting. Who you brought in, particularly from the high school ranks. And right now they only have 2 dudes. And as I've mentioned, as you pointed out, that those are the guys that play the hardest. They have the most invested. They're here to be at K-State. They're not here to play for K-State because they got paid the most money. And I have been leery of the value of actually winning every recruiting battle with dollars. Because if you're recruiting dudes that are only going to go play for you for the most dollars, their heart ain't in it. Their pocketbook's in it, but their heart ain't in it. They just want your money. They haven't connected to the school. They're not interested in any of that. They're interested in getting paid to come play basketball, and there's no qualification to how they have to play. So they're not invested in any way. And it's just an ongoing thing. They find themselves in this position now where I'm saying they need to get some more high school guys. He talks about Iowa State being so good that their point guards on their fourth year. Is anything registering here that you don't have that? You might have it eventually with David Castillo, but no. I mean, you kind of throttled him early on. So they have no choice but to go back to the portal this year. The high school classes are mostly, done. They've signed. And so they're back in the portal doing this for a fifth time if they're back. And there's no indication that they won't be. And you're just kind of wondering, when are you going to learn that this doesn't work? But, Dan, there's a big change now. We're hearing that the money has dried up. The folks given NIL money are either pulled out completely or mostly. So now they're going to construct a team with the portal without the kind of money they've had. I don't know. Is that good or bad? They've been buying these high-priced guys that come in and underperform. Maybe they'll hit the lottery and do the opposite and find some low-priced guys that come in and pretty good. But the way they evaluate talent, I wouldn't be banking on it.
What do you make of the reaction to the comments, some of the comments that Jerome Tang has made in some of his post-game press conferences? Because on the one hand, the team's 1-8 in the league. There's no winning a press conference that Jerome Tang can do. He's right when he says that. But at the same time, when he says things like, well, you're going to write what you want to write. Manhattan, Kansas is not Manhattan, New York, covering the Jets or the Yankees. Like, this is not typically an adversarial relationship between program and media. And it feels like that defensiveness from Jerome Tang is, in fact, not, it doesn't seem like it's serving much of a purpose. And in fact, if anything, it's turning the constituency he needs to have his back against him a little bit.
Yep, you're right. That his press conference the other day was just, it was odd. When he said he doesn't owe any explanation to the fans, the hell you don't. Why would you even have that come out your mouth? The fans are, at the end of the day, the ones who are paying you by donation or by showing up and going to games and creating revenue. That was not cool. And also his junk about you're going to put in whatever you want for the clicks. Oh, come on, coach. That is so cliche. Yeah. I mean, you run the plays at work. Well, hold on. That's a bad analogy. You try to do, whatever gets the best reaction, but nobody's taking anything you're saying out of context. Not one bit. Nobody has done that. We don't need to. The context is lost when it comes out of your mouth in some cases. So, that press conference was a disaster, and he burned some bridges there that he probably might need later on down the road.
What did you make of Gene Taylor's public remarks about Jerome Tang earlier this week? Essentially, what he said, to paraphrase for those maybe listening who aren't aware, is that he knows that nobody is more frustrated right now by the results on the court than the people who are on the coaching staff, the players, the coaches, everybody involved with that basketball program. It did not come off as the dreaded vote of confidence, but what did you make of what Gene Taylor had to say?
What else is he going to say? He's not going to say, well, I got to get this guy out of here. We can't fire him. He's got too big of a buyout. He can't say any of that. So he's always been a coach's AD, and he's going to be supportive. The problem is, I don't think the fans see the stress the coaches are going through. I'm not saying they're not. It feels like now he's worried about how everyone's perceiving them instead of actually how the team is playing. And that's just weird. I don't look, Gene's going to do what Gene has to do. and there's a lot of things at play. People are just assuming he's going to be fired. He does have a big buyout. I don't know where that money comes from. I've been told flat out, they're going to do nothing that would hurt the financing of Kansas State football, because they made promises to Colin. And also, that's where your bread is buttered. That's where an athletic department makes its money. So I think with that reality, that football has grown even more in prominence, they might just let this ride for a little bit. The problem is it doesn't get much better down the road. You're going to save $3 million and flush another season down the toilet if you keep, if you take this path. And is that worth it? Are you going to inflict more damage than you're actually saving in money?
Couple more questions for Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com, joining us, as he always does, Wednesdays at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Let's pivot to football. It is National Signing Day, a day that we have bemoaned over the last couple of years has really lost its luster, at least at the Division I level, because most of the recruiting business is done on early signing day. But Kansas State did add a few faces to their recruiting class today, and notably, some of them were some in-state talents. Arlie Morrell flipped his Iowa State commitment to K-State out of Pratt. Blake Jay and Nash Morrison out of the Kansas City Metro, both deciding to join the program as well. What do you make of some of those recruiting successes in-state, even if they are preferred walk-on types, for Colin Klein's first recruiting class, first bit of recruiting business as K-State's head coach?
I think for the most part, they liked the class that had been signed. We saw some guys, the quarterback didn't fit. There was a running back that didn't fit. Interestingly enough, both of those guys were in Texas, so Colin and the other coaches probably knew plenty about him, or had access to that information while they were still at A&M and knowing they were coming up here. So they made some edits to the class and then some additions, and they did pick up some guys that you think can help. And I always find it interesting, though, how many times that the guy that is perceived to be the last one in the recruiting class ends up being one of the better players. That's kind of a typical Kansas thing. They're just behind in their development, physical development. And they catch up when they get into a real weight program, and boom. So we'll see how it pans out. But this was so weird. Dan, I didn't even realize it was signing day until today.
I know it.
I had been so wrapped up in other stuff. Now, luckily, my recruiting guy, Cole, was all over it. So we weren't exposed on that. But I woke up and I go, oh, gosh, it's signing day. What am I going to do today? I think I'm going to watch a movie and then take a nap. This used to be like the Super Bowl of recruiting coverage every year.
It was Christmas.
That's nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Real quick, Fitz, before we wrap up, which player do you think is the most exciting addition to Kansas State football for 2026?
Oh, boy, I don't know. You mean out of the recruiting class?
Yeah, just new addition. Just any new addition.
Oh, Gregory, the defensive end out of Oklahoma State. I think he's just going to – that's his name, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's going to be – I was like, hold on. Again, I just woke up from a nap. I think he was held back this year because teams were ahead of Oklahoma State in running the ball. And he's a rush guy. And I don't think they used him very well. And yet he stood out in the conference as a freshman. And I think in this defense, what I think they're going to be doing here, I think he's going to fit extremely well.
Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and joins us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors, who provide high-quality products at affordable prices. You can check out their showrooms in either Wamego or Lawrence, or visit them online at tallgrasswindows.com. Excellence without exception. That's Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Fitz, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, sir. That
is Tim Fitzgerald. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, set the stage for the final hour of 580 Sports Talk. Real quick, wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, the pitchers who would be most hurt by the fences moving in at Kauffman Stadium and what most of them have in common. Pitchers who would have been the most hurt the last 5 years and what most of them have in common for 2026. Plus, we're going to hear from Zach Watkins, head coach of the Washburn Ichabod football team. It is National Signing Day. They inked their recruiting class today. We're going to hear from Zach Watkins about some of those new Ichabods. And we got 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to as well. So hope you'll hang with us. We got one more hour together on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday. Glad you're aboard here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online to 580WIBW.com, and live in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Dan Lucero with you. Got you the rest of the way. With you until 6. Then we have a little 580 Sports Talk overtime for you today. We'll re-rack our conversation with Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com. That'll be appropriate because overtime takes us to K-State women's basketball. The Wildcats and the Wildcats tonight in Tucson. K-State at Arizona. Pre-game coverage starting at 6:30 with a tip-off time of 7 o'clock. So we'll have some overtime after we're done with regulation here on 580 Sports Talk. In this final hour, we got our sports headlines, of course. We're going to hear from Zach Watkins, head coach of the Washburn football team. Today was National Signing Day for Ichabod football, and they announced all of their signees today. A solid local contingent as well. If you follow high school football here in the capital city, you recognize names like Cade Mitchell, Aiden Scott, Logan Hunninghake, Jordy Heim. Those are among the many players who signed today with the Ichabods. And Brendan Dworzinski, voice of the Ichabods, caught up with Zach Watkins earlier today to talk about it. And we'll hear from the second-year head coach of the Washburn football team coming up in just a little while. Also, again, I want to thank the content gods for giving us not one, but 2 really good articles on the internet about the Royals today. We cited earlier Michael Bowman's article on Fangraphs about Jac Caglianone, but also Mike Petrello had a well-researched piece at MLB.com today about who will be helped and who will be hurt by the Royals moving in the fences. There's also a lot of video in the piece. I would recommend you go read it. In fact, if you're watching on the YouTube right now, YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, and you're in the live chat, I'm going to throw a link to the story in the chat so that you all could read it if you'd like, if you have not yet seen it. The headline right now on the front page of MLB.com, you got to scroll a bit to find the story, but it says, hitters are going to absolutely barbecue baseballs in Kansas City. And so the big picture takeaway is expect a lot more home runs at Kauffman Stadium in 2026. And they've also got video in the piece. And a play that I had forgotten from the division series in 2024, game 4 of that series, 7th inning, Garrett Cole still on the mound for the Yankees. It's a 3-1 ball game. There's a runner on base for Kyle Isbell. And Isbell gave one a ride to right field. Do you guys remember this? I didn't. I had totally forgotten. I thought I remembered MJ hitting one that was close to going out that night. Or maybe that was game 3. Maybe that was Massey. That was a long time ago, is what I'm saying. But Kyle Isbell missed a game-tying home run by about 5 feet. And the wind was blowing in that night at Kauffman Stadium. I know because I was sitting in that vicinity, the auxiliary media seating where most of the media sat that wasn't national media or the Royals beat writers. That's down the right field line. That's in that corner. It's on the foul side of that pole, that corner there in right field. So I know, I was sitting outside that night. I know the wind was blowing in. And it was really tough to get an angle on just how close that ball had come to going out. Like, I didn't really see it great because from my vantage point, you kind of lose the ball there in the corner. I knew Soto had caught it. It was obvious, the crowd reaction, but I didn't realize until I went back later that day, I think, or the next day and watched the replay. He just missed it. Text from the 913 correctly says that was a series altering out. If the Royals tie the game there, and the Yankees have to get to their bullpen a little bit earlier, I could have. The Royals could have gone on and win that game, and then game 5, anything can happen. It would have been back in the Bronx, but you wouldn't have had to face Cole. So, yeah, anything could have happened if that ball from Isbell went out. And the new dimensions, That would have been a home run. So Petrello's piece is really good. Like I said, go to YouTube right now, 580 Sports Talk. The live chat is open. I just threw a link in there that you should be able to click on if you'd like to read the story or bookmark it for later, whichever you like. But interesting facts from the last 5 years of batted ball data that Petrello studied for the article. The hitters that would have been helped the most are guys you would expect. The pitchers that would have been hurt the most, that would have given up more extra home runs, well, that's a list that has a lot in common too. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Again, I want to invite you to join the program in that live chat on YouTube. We stream live every day on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. You can also text the show. 785-272-9429 is the number. That's 785-272-9429. But we begin today with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We begin today with the Washburn football signing class. It is a class that, again, as I mentioned, has a strong local feel to it, as typically is the case. But everybody got their national letters of intent, NLIs, in. And the class today that was signed is 34 players deep, includes 9 defensive backs, 6 defensive linemen, 2 kickers, 3 linebackers, 5 offensive linemen, a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and 4 wide receivers. 12 of the 34 are from the state of Kansas, 12 are from Missouri, 7 from Texas, and 3 from the state of Florida. Among the Kansas kids who signed to play at Washburn, Jordy Heim from Washburn Rural will join his twin brothers, JC and Jaron, who are both already on the team. JC, one of the best linebackers in America for the Ichabods, and now Jordy will join them as a linebacker. John Hoytel from Washburn Rural also signing. He played quarterback for the Junior Blues. He'll switch to tight end at Washburn, following in his footsteps, or of the footsteps of his dad and his uncle, who both played football for the Ichabods. Logan Huntinghank from Topeka West, who was an all-league and all-county honorable mention pick as a senior for the Chargers and a 3-year starter for them. Cade Mitchell out of Hayden, who had a remarkable senior year, rushed for over 1,000 yards, had nearly 500 receiving yards, and went over 400 return yards with 3 return touchdowns. I thought on his graphic on social media, it showed him as a defensive back, but here on the Washburn website, it shows him as a running back. So obviously played both ways for the state runners-up this past season, and currently a starter on the basketball team as well, and an all-state baseball player. So a terrific athlete, really good addition to the program there. Aiden Scott out of Shawnee Heights. He is a gunslinger and looks the part at 6'5", set all the passing records at Shawnee Heights, threw for nearly 3,000 yards and 26 touchdowns as a senior, cleared 3,000 yards with 32 touchdown passes as a junior. His dad played in Emporia State, so that'll be a fun little familial rivalry, perhaps, as Aiden Scott joins the ranks as the quarterback in this signing class. Also, players signing from Blue Valley Northwest, defensive lineman Miguel Torrealba. From Bishop Carroll in Wichita, safety Landon Stephen. From Blue Valley Northwest in Overland Park, defensive end Caleb Peterson. Also from Blue Valley Northwest, linebacker Beckett Linden. From Gardner Edgerton, place kicker, this is a great name, Jensen Honey. A sweet last name, pun absolutely intended. Running back out of Great Bend, Connor Holiday. Punter Everett Grower out of Park Hill South, though he's listed as being from Kansas City, Kansas. And Roland By, who played at Winnetonka in Missouri, but also listed as being from KCK. So those are your Kansas signees for Washburn football, 34-member signing class for 2026. Next headline. Let's get to this Royals bit of news. It's a minor league contract and a non-roster invite to spring training, and typically those kind of slide under the radar a little bit, but this is a guy I actually think has a chance to make the Royals. They signed Brandon Drury to a minor league contract, 33-year-old veteran utility man, spent last year entirely in the minor leagues after suffering a thumb injury late in spring training. He was probably going to make the White Sox. He was having a big spring, but then broke his thumb and struggled in the minor leagues, didn't get the call up after his rehab was done, and then left the organization, went to the Angels organization where he had spent the previous 2 seasons, didn't fare much better, didn't have a very good year. 228 minor league plate appearances, hit just 214. Could probably blame fairly the broken thumb for that. That's it's an injury that is hard for a hitter to recover from over the course of the year. In 2024, Drury spent the entire season with the Angels, but had another injury-plagued year, hitting just 169 in 360 plate appearances, 360 plate appearances over 97 games. The 3 years prior to that, he'd been a steady contributor, including winning a Silver Slugger in 2022, spending the year with Cincinnati and San Diego, batting .263 with an .813 OPS, 28 home runs, and 87 runs driven in. 2023 with the Angels, hit 26 home runs and drove in 83. Career batting average of .245 with a .717 OPS, 109 career home runs in 10 seasons, 867 big league games. Most critically, Drury is a right-handed hitter, which the Royals are short on, and plays all over the infield, which the Royals' best utility candidates right now are Nick Lofton and Tyler Tolbert. And there's a part of me that sometimes thinks that you catch Nick Lofton on the right day and you feel like, yeah, that's a big leaguer. Even if it's just as a utility guy, that's a big leaguer. And Tyler Tolbert's really fun because he runs fast, but not a great hitter. I think Drury's got a shot to make the team. If he has a good spring, I think he'll get that roster spot ahead of Lofton or Tolbert. Last year 2 years ago, I guess, with the Angels, he played second base, third base, and first base. He last played shortstop in 2022, last played in the outfield in 2021, has played both left field and right field. Primarily a second base, third base type of player, though, and again, a right-handed bat. He's got a history of production in the bigs. He might be washed. He might be totally cooked. That's entirely possible, but it's not really costing the Royals much to find out. And the upside, I think, is a bat with some pop that gives them more upside than Lofton or Tolbert in that utility role. So I think Brandon Drury's got a shot. Like of the NRI guys that the Royals are bringing in, the non-roster invites, he might have the best shot of any of them to make the 26. They'll have to clear spot for him on the 40-man, of course. That's the way that works. But I think he's got the best shot of any of the non-roster guys. There are a couple of relievers that have a chance. Eli Morgan certainly has a chance. Hector Neris maybe has a chance. He's a veteran guy. But keep an eye on Brandon Drury this spring. If he has another good spring, if he outperforms Lofton and Tolbert, I bet he makes the team. Continuing our 580 Sports Talk headlines, we have another college football player seeking a year of eligibility to play college football that they never in a million years would have gotten before 2 years ago. This time it's Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar. He today was granted a temporary restraining order in his lawsuit against the NCAA as he seeks an additional year of eligibility, which would allow him to play for the Volunteers this fall. Here's the precedent. We all know Diego Pavia got an extra year to play at Vanderbilt because it was ruled that his time in junior college should not count against his 4-year Division I clock. Well, Joey Aguilar played 2 years of junior college football and has now played 3 years of Division I football. He spent 2023 and 2024 at Appalachian State. Last year, transferred to Tennessee. Had a nice year. 3,500 yards through the air, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But track the calendar here. 2025, Tennessee. 2024 and 2023, Appalachian State. The argument is that he should get one more year of Division I, and that his years at community college should not count because they didn't count for Diego Pavia. He got the extra year at Vanderbilt. Why shouldn't Joey Aguilar get his extra year? Well, it's not just an extra year to give him, well, I guess in this case, 6, because Aguilar played for 2021 to 2022 at Diablo Valley Community College. 2020, the COVID year, his college football season was canceled. 2019, he was a junior college redshirt at City College of San Francisco. That means, you can do the math on this, Joey Aguilar will be looking to spend his 8th year he takes a snap in a football game, whether it's for the Volunteers or he loses out on the lawsuit and has to go try a pro career. The next time he takes a snap, he will be 25. NFL draft. He's looking for that extra year so he can make some NIL money and play at Tennessee. And look, I'm sure college life is really, really nice for a quarterback, especially at an SEC school, especially one for a winning team, even if Tennessee wasn't great last year. But on the flip side, brother, you are 25 years old. This NFL thing is probably not going to crack for you. Tennessee's not the best program to go from quarterbacking there to the NFL because they run a lot of that run and shoot, wide split stuff that doesn't translate to the NFL. At some point, man, UPS is hiring. At some point, man, join the workforce. Consider going pro in something other than sports. If Fernando Mendoza isn't too good to have a LinkedIn page, then neither are you. Go freshen up your LinkedIn, brother. 8 years of college football. And look, I get it. 2021 didn't count anyway, right? Didn't count. And in 2020, he didn't really get to play. So throw that one out the window. 2020, the actual year of COVID that canceled his football season. And then a redshirt year. Okay, fine. Redshirt, no season, fake season. You want to say 7 years? All right. You got your 7 years of college football. Why do you want 8? Because you're not good enough for even one snap in the pros. Go learn a trade, man. Like, you can't be mad at it, right? Because if somebody out there is willing to pay him to play football, you'd pursue it too. If you love the game and that was your dream, you'd do the same thing. But at the same time, the guys that are doing this, the guys that are most strenuously pursuing these extra years are guys we're never going to see on Sundays. If we're talking football guys like Diego Pavia, they measured him at the combine. And look, I loved college football player Diego Pavia. I have some problems with Diego Pavia, the human being. He should not have said all that wild stuff he said after not winning the Heisman. That wasn't cool. But as a college football player, I loved watching Diego Pavia play. He was listed at 6 feet tall. This last year at Vanderbilt, they went and measured him at the Senior Bowl, and he could join the Lollipop Guild. So that's not happening. NFL's not happening for Diego Pavia, and he knew that. That's why he wanted the extra year of college football. And I think Joey Aguilar probably feels the same way, and it's hard to blame those guys. So it's just a little ridiculous. It's what happened to the game we love, right? When thinking about college football. Question from the 785 in the text line. He's surely got a master's degree by now, right? You would hope. Like, and that's the thing about it too, is like, if he's studying, if he is getting a master's degree, that I think as long as you are an active student, you should be able to play. As long as you are like actively studying, student athletes, right? Like, why shouldn't you be able to play if you're pursuing further academics? That was always the thing, right? Like, you could get a post-grad year if you transferred to a school. If you were graduated, but you wanted to transfer, you could go and play at a school that had your field of study. Those were the old rules. So yeah, if he was legitimately pursuing a master's degree, man, salute. Go get it. Prepare for your future beyond football. Don't just show up and take like 201 level underwater basket weaving and play one more year of college football because you can make $800,000 or whatever he's getting NIL wise. So that's the latest from there. A couple of other things that we'll go through here quick on the headlines today. If you are an NBA fan, the trade deadline is tomorrow. And it is not going to be a quiet one, it would appear. A lot of moves going down today, including the shocking move of the day. The Dallas Mavericks sending Anthony Davis to the Washington Wizards. Not much more than 1 year after they acquired him in the Luka Doncic trade. The Mavericks are overhauling once again. They trade Anthony Davis and 3 other guys, the most famous of whom is D'Angelo Russell, to the Wizards. The Wizards send 4 players, the most famous of whom is Chris Middleton, 2 first-round picks, and 3 second-rounders back to the Mavericks. It allows the Mavericks to fully build around Cooper Flagg, and they trade Anthony Davis, who's never healthy. But I thought the whole thing about trading Anthony Davis is that that's how you build a championship team. That was the excuse that the Mavericks ran when they traded for him and gave up the franchise, Luka Doncic. That trade looks worse and worse every single day. So there was that big trade today. Speaking of famous players getting traded, Chris Paul's contract got traded today. There's a 3-team deal between the Clippers, Nets, and Raptors. Chris Paul, who has been AWOL from the Clippers by the Clippers' request, they sent him home, and now they trade him to the Raptors, who are not going to require Paul to report to the team and could still trade his contract before the trade deadline tomorrow. Former Jayhawk Ochai Agbaji is in that trade as well. He goes from Toronto to Brooklyn. Other trades in the NBA today, Oklahoma City Thunder acquired Jared McCain from the 76ers for a first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. McCain was really good as a rookie, not so good as a second-year guy after he got an injury. The Thunder also need a guard because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander suffered an abdominal strain in last night's game, and the MVP candidate will be sidelined at least through the All-Star break. The Chicago Bulls were very busy today. They traded Kobe White to the Charlotte Hornets, also sent Mike Conley, who they got yesterday, to the Hornets in exchange for Colin Sexton and 3 second-round picks. Obviously, last night, it went down. James Harden traded from the Clippers to the Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. So a lot happening. No movement on the big star who is most likely to get moved. The biggest star who is most likely to get moved is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who wants out of Milwaukee. A lot of smoke around Minnesota, moving around some assets, trying to acquire him and pair him with Anthony Edwards and turn the Western Conference into even more of a meat grinder than it already is. But that's what's happening in the NBA. One last headline to get to. Not really a strictly sports headline here, but I think it does bear some mentioning. The Washington Post today laid off a third of its workforce, including virtually the entire sports section. And I'll keep my remarks on this as brief as I can, but the sports media industry, the media industry as a whole, the industry that I work in, we've seen better days. We've had easier times of it in history, if you get kind of what I'm driving at. It's a hard time in the media industry. It's hard out there for a lot of newspapers because venture capitalists. I meant vulture capitalists. That's what I think of those people. Vulture capitalists have bought newspapers strictly to ruin them, to tear them to shreds, and then to shut them down. Make them lesser versions of what they used to be. And that's what Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, is doing today with the Washington Post. Historically, that's been one of the great sports sections for a nationally read newspaper. It doesn't just cover the 4 major sports in Washington, D.C. It's a 4-sport city, in case you've forgotten, but also covered national sports topics, had national sports columnists, had names you know guys who've written for the Washington Post. Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser turned it into a television career. It remains and had remained one of the best sports sections in America, and now it doesn't exist anymore. And I just don't know how you could operate a newspaper and decide the thing you can do without is sports. I don't get it. I don't get why Jeff Bezos, whose net worth is in excess of $250 billion, thinks this business in particular needs to be the one he cuts costs on. He could lose $1 million on the newspaper every year for the next 653 years, and he wouldn't even notice. 653 years. That'd be how long it would take him to notice, to be broke, if he just took $1 million every year and lit it on fire. But no, we're going to tear up the sports section, one of the best national sports sections in America, a sports section in a four major sport market, and we're just going to incinerate it. Shame on him. Shame on the Washington Post. Sports media is a worse place today than it was yesterday. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Zach Watkins, head coach of the Washburn Ichabod, spoke to our Brendan Dworzynski earlier today, and we'll hear from him on 580 WIBW. Well, my bad, folks. We're not actually doing what is wrong. One got to go today. We did what is wrong with you in the 4 o'clock hour. No one got to go today. There was a late change to the rundown, and we forgot to take it out of the log. That's our bad. Late change to the rundown because earlier today, our Brendan Dworzynski had a chance to catch up with the head coach of the Washburn Ichabod football team, Zach Watkins. Watkins spoke about his team's 34-member signing class that was officially welcomed today on National Signing Day. So without any further ado, here's that chat with the voice of the Ichabods, our own Brendan Dworzynski. And Washburn football coach Zach Watkins.
Right now, we are joined by Zach Watkins, head coach of Washburn Ichabods football. National Signing Day earlier this week. You've told me off the air how excited you are about this class. So let's dive into it a little bit here. Just big picture, what is it that makes this class one that you think can be really special for this program?
Yeah, really just identifying every need we had in our program, we got done in this class, from offense, defense, the special team side of things. Every position has at least one recruit at that position. We got taller, we got longer, we got heavier. We wanted to build this recruiting class from the inside out. So the O and D line were our big focus. And we got some really, really talented, big, long kids in this class, and then build it out from there. And the skill guys are the tallest, most dynamic, longest guys we've had. And so just overall, our entire staff's focus was to get bigger and longer, and then let our strength staff and our coaches develop those guys over the next several years.
And, just running through the list of all the signees this year, there's some Texas, there's some Florida, some of that, that quote unquote SEC speed kind of territory, a lot of Missouri, a lot of Kansas, a lot of local here. I know you mentioned it on your first day on the job, how important that was to be locally committed to the high school players, but to see this class come together and to see this kind of really dominance in this area, how big of a deal is that for this program overall?
Absolutely. We are going to be a high school-based program for our entire tenure here, and it starts in Topeka with the really good football coaching and the football kids that are here, and then it goes out to the state of Kansas and into Missouri and Nebraska, like you mentioned, and we are a Midwest high school recruiting team, but we'll also go where we have really good connections and good relationships, which is Florida, Texas, been in Arizona for a long time, and really we'll go wherever we need to find the recruit that connects with what our staff has created for our standards of each position.
Talking to Zach Watkins, head football coach for the Washburn Ichabods following National Signing Day earlier this week. Last year, you take over the job there end of November into December, and you've obviously been with this program for a long time. You know the ins and outs of Washburn football, but to now have a cycle where you've been in charge, you've had your staff, your people in the positions you want them in for a full year. How much did that change signing day this year? Did you feel like you were more on the cutting, leading edge this year going into the recruiting process?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. The staff got hired January of 25. And so we had about a month to put together last year's class. We put together a really good class. We got really good players who all redshirted and now will be redshirt freshmen for us this next fall. But now that we've had a full year, we started recruiting these guys that signed today in February of 25. So a year ago, we started recruiting these kids. And really Coach Sharp, our director of player personnel, and his staff, and then our entire coaching staff, we've set really good standards of what we want at each position from a physical standpoint, size, height, weight, measurables, but also off the field intangibles. And so our staff identified those, and that way you can whittle down your process pretty quickly. There's kids we wanted to get and we didn't get. Some kids we got we didn't think we would get, and that's the recruiting cycle. It's going to be very fluid, but when you recruit kids for a whole year and then you sign them today, it's very rewarding, and I'm extremely proud of our staff for what they did and the trips they made and the things that we had to do to get this class done. I couldn't be prouder of those guys.
It's a great class coming in, obviously looking ahead to, 27, 28, always looking ahead for recruiting. But now the big focus, you move on to spring football, obviously the spring game coming up second week of April. How fired up is this staff to get back out there? The guys who are returning, the new guys who are on campus already, to get out there and put the pads on for spring practice?
Yeah, we've got 17 transfers here now that came in here in January. Guys we identified that really fit needs that we had right now on the roster with senior graduation and transferring out of our program last year. So this spring will look a lot different than last spring. The talent level is elevated. The competition will be much higher because we have a lot more depth at every position. That's quarterback to kicker. That's every position. We've got multiple guys who have either started and played a lot of football for us or have played a lot of football someplace else, are now coming in here to Washburn and a part of our team and helping this go forward. And so this time last year, our coaching staff were teaching and learning and figuring out how to get around the facilities here at Washburn. Well, now we've been here a full year. All the off the field stuff is gone, and we're just so far ahead in spring ball preparation, recruiting, the development in the weight room. And so I'm extremely excited for spring ball, which begins March 2nd here on campus.
It's coming up soon. Huge National Signing Day earlier this week. We're breaking it all down with the head coach of Washburn Ichabods football, Zach Watkins. Coach, congrats on a big signing day, and we'll see you here soon as spring practice begins.
Thank you. Hopefully Coach Ballard and the Bods keep it rolling. So good luck.
That is Zach Watkins speaking again earlier today on this National Signing Day with our Brendan Dworzinski. 34-member recruiting class. I'm really excited to see how the local kids we've covered here in the capital city, and guys like John Hoytel and Cade Mitchell and Aiden Scott. I'm really excited to see how they fare because I think that those are kids who have a chance to have a really big impact. I think Aiden Scott could certainly be a starting quarterback in that program. I think Cade Mitchell is a difference maker. I think Jordy Heim can be an impact guy. John Hoytel, such a hard worker, could be an impact guy. So look forward to seeing those young men continue their football careers close to home as Ichabods. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to finish on a baseball note today. Which hitters and pitchers would have been most impacted had the fences been in at the K the last 5 years the way they're going to be in 2026? The list of hitters won't surprise you. The list of pitchers has something interesting in common. I'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about it on 580 Sports Talk. .544 on 580 Sports Talk. Getting close to the end, and as you can maybe tell by my voice, I'll be pretty relieved when we do. We got overtime, though. Before that, we run Tim Fitzgerald's conversation with me earlier on the show, our Wildcat Wrap-Up as our overtime conversation of the day. Take it to 6:30 and then pass the ball to the K-State Sports Network from Learfield. We've got K-State women's basketball in action tonight. They are in Arizona to take on the Arizona Wildcats. 7 o'clock tip, 6:30 pregame here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So again, MLB.com's Mike Petrello had a piece today, and it's the raw data over the last 5 years about the change in total home runs at Kauffman Stadium had the fences been in the place where the fences are going to be in 2026. And the calculation that Petrello's data supported, and you're looking at the batted balls, you're not just looking at where they landed, but you're looking at like trajectory and things like that. And balls that they determined based on launch angle, trajectory, and distance were not home runs at Kauffman Stadium the last 5 years, but would have been if the fences were in. Petrello determined there were 231 lost home runs over the last 5 years. You do the math on that, that's something like 45, 46 home runs a year. 46. About 46 home runs a year lost because of where the fences were. 54% of those 231 lost homers would have been for the Royals. 46% would have been at the expense of Royals pitchers. So a change that would have overall benefited the Royals. And the Royals hitters who would have benefited the most overall are guys you would expect, with maybe one exception. If the fences had been where they are going to be from 2021 to 2025, Salvador Perez would have added 19 home runs to his career total. That would have him even closer to 350 overall, George Brett's Royals record, and an improved Hall of Fame case, because Hall of Fame voters love those round numbers. Salvy's lost 19 home runs. That's just the last 5 years. Probably, Petrello writes in the article, over the course of his career, he might already be at 350 had the fences at the K been in the whole time. But Salvy lost 19 homers the last 5 years, about 4 per season. Bobby Witt Jr. obviously didn't play for the Royals in 2021. It's his 4th year with the team. It's 2025. But even in just those 4 years, he's lost 12 home runs. So about 3 per season for him. Vinny Pasquantino has also lost 12 home runs over the course of his time with the Royals. 10, excuse me. I transpose the numbers. 10 home runs lost for Pasquantino over the last 5 years. Edward Olivares lost 8 home runs in his Royals tenure by virtue of the old fences. That's former Royal Eddie Olivares, of course. I wonder where he is now. He's with the Pirates, last year. He signed with a team overseas. No, he's in the Rays organization. He's with the Rays now. I wondered if he'd gone to, I feel like he'd be an all-star in like Taiwan or Korea. Yeah, he'd mash in Korea. Edward Olivares. And then Michael Garcia would have added 7 home runs to his overall total over the last, well, for him, 3 seasons, if the fences had been in. So those are the hitters who would benefit the most from the fences coming in. And again, those are the guys you would expect. Perez, Witt, Pasquantino. Those are your power hitters. What about pitchers who would have been hurt by the fences being in? Who would have given up more home runs, allowed more home runs over the last 5 years? 2 pitchers would have had 8 home runs added to their total. Brady Singer and Daniel Lynch IV. 3 pitchers would have had 6 home runs added to their total. Zach Greinke, which that's kind of sad because he only pitched 1 year in that time frame as a Royal. Alec Marsh, who also only really pitched 1 year in that time frame as a Royal, and Chris Bubich would have each allowed 6 more home runs over the last 5 years. Notice something about that list. Singer, Lynch, Bubich, Marsh, Greinke. How many of those guys are going to pitch for the Royals in 2026? Bubich, as presently constructed, he's probably number 3 starter. If they want to go left, right, left to start the season, they can go. Well, they can't really do that because they've got. No, they can do that. 3 lefties. They can go Reagans, Lugo, Bubich, Waka, Cameron. That's probably the order I would go in if I were Matt Cotrero sketching out the early season rotation. But Chris Bubich is going to pitch for the Royals. Daniel Lynch is like the guy on the fringes of the bullpen right now. Like he's the second lefty, but I don't know. Feels like more and more, it's less and less important to carry a second left-handed reliever with the 3-batter rule. You don't just get to platoon match a bunch. And Lynch wasn't very good last year. Like if of the projected bullpen, I had him 8th on my list, which would mean he would be the guy most likely to lose out to somebody like Hector Neris or Eli Morgan or Eric Sarantola or somebody else. But Singer's gone. Marsh has been injured. Greinke's retired. So it makes you wonder, the Royals have probably been looking at doing, I don't think they woke up in November and decided, let's move the fences in for 2026. I think this is probably something that J.J. Piccolo's been thinking about since he took over as the general manager. I think it's very likely that it's been on his mind for that length of time. And at the very least, they've had data, batted ball data, that would have suggested which pitchers benefit from this, which pitchers lose effectiveness because they give up more home runs in an environment that's more permissive to home runs. And I'm not saying that's why they traded Brady Singer, or why there have been talks about them trading Chris Bubich, or why Daniel Lynch was the one who got moved to the bullpen, so he pitched less. But you can kind of see where the Royals would look at that list of pitchers and think, okay, yeah, they're really benefiting from our ballpark, but maybe not as good as their numbers would suggest because of how much they have benefited from our ballpark. And I bring this up, one, because I think that's an interesting commonality, but two, I just want to continue to stress how refreshing that it is to look at the Kansas City Royals and feel like this is a well-run baseball organization. They may not have the farm system that's top tier. They're struggling to rebuild that back up after some failed drafts. But this feels like a very competent baseball organization with smart people making considered decisions. And we've come a long way from the tail end of the Dayton Moore era in that regard, when Dayton Moore seemed like he was just trying to assemble like a particularly muscular like men's church group in the clubhouse. The Royals are a smart organization, a thoughtful organization, one that uses data and is data forward and analytics forward in their consideration for how to build their roster. And in this case, how to build their ballpark. And this won't just affect Kauffman Stadium. You better believe that when they get shovels in the ground for wherever their next ballpark ends up being, it'll affect how that place looks too. We'll take one more time out. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show with the final word, rather, after this. Time for the final word here on 580 Sports Talk. I used to call it the walk-off when I did something a similar conceit back when I hosted Sports Talk Radio in Nebraska. That was many, many years ago, and sometimes I forget and almost call this segment the walk-off. It is, in fact, the final word. And my final word today goes back to what I was saying about Kansas State basketball in the 4 o'clock hour. They're never going to be anything good until they figure out what they are and who they are. Maybe it's a little deep. Maybe it's fake deep to bring up Henry David Thoreau on a sports talk program. Maybe this is the only sports talk program that's going to bring up Henry David Thoreau. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. But Thoreau's whole thing was know thyself. And the programs that succeed in the Big 12 right now are programs with the coach and players, both recruited out of high school and recruited through the transfer portal, who know who they are and know how they want to play and embrace a style, embrace a culture, embrace what it is to be a Jayhawk or a Cougar or a Cyclone. Kansas State can be a program like that. It should be a program like that. Fans would embrace a program like that. And I don't just mean one that wins. Everybody loves a winner. Kansas State fans will get behind a program that reflects Kansas State. This is true in any sport. Kansas State fans will get behind a program that reflects Kansas State. That is a reflection of who a Kansas State man or woman believes themselves to be and believes in. If Kansas State basketball cannot achieve that, it will not matter who the coach is. They will not be successful. That is Jerome Tang's challenge for as long as he is in that job, is to figure out what he wants that program to be. We got overtime coming up next. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. My name is Dan Lucero. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.